INFJs have a reputation for being mysterious, but what most people miss is just how strategic their intelligence really is. They're not trying to be the loudest or the fastest thinker in the room. Instead, their brilliance hides in behaviors most people overlook. Until suddenly you realize the INFJ has been 3 steps ahead the entire time. Today, we're diving into 10 subtle INFJ signs of uncommon intelligence. These aren't your typical clichés. These are the eerie, counterintuitive habits that make INFJs feel both fascinating and sometimes a little intimidating. Let's dive in. Alright, first thing first, they pretend not to know. INFJs have a strange habit that confuses people. Sometimes they act like they don't know something, even when they do. They'll nod along, ask innocent questions, or play the part of someone who's simply listening. On the surface, it looks like humility or even naivety. But in reality, it's a deliberate strategy. By pretending not to know, INFJs shift the spotlight onto the other person. And here's the interesting part. Most people, when they feel they're the expert in the room, start to reveal more than they should. They talk freely, they drop unfiltered opinions, they even expose their intentions. Meanwhile, the INFJ is quietly gathering information, piecing together a map of who this person really is. This behavior is a form of psychological camouflage. Instead of flexing their intelligence, INFJs downplay it to avoid triggering defensiveness or competition. It's a way of creating safety because people are more open when they don't feel judged or challenged. And the INFJ knows that the real truth often slips out when people feel comfortable. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Acting like they don't know gives the INFJ time to observe. It allows them to study patterns of behavior without interference. By the time they finally reveal what they actually know, it feels almost shocking, as if they've been holding a mirror to the other person the entire time. This is uncommon intelligence in action. Not the intelligence of showing off, but the intelligence of strategy. By letting others underestimate them, INFJs gain a deeper, more accurate understanding of people. And in the end, that knowledge becomes far more powerful than any quick display of brilliance. And next up, they use dreams and symbols as data. For most people, dreams are just random images, strange stories that fade away after waking up. But for INFJs, dreams are more than imagination. They treat them like data. Many INFJs even keep a secret practice of journaling their dreams. As soon as they wake up, they write down every detail they can remember. The strange symbols, the recurring places, even the people who show up in unexpected ways. Sometimes it's in a private notebook, other times in a hidden folder on their phone. Later, they go back and decode those symbols, searching for patterns and meanings that connect them more deeply to their subconscious. If they dream of a broken bridge, they may connect it to a fear of losing connection with someone. If they see repeating patterns or symbols, they consider what their intuition is trying to tell them about their emotional state or the challenges ahead. It isn't mystical or supernatural. It's a different way of processing information. The INFJ's intelligence lies in their ability to translate these abstract images into real-world insights. They understand that the subconscious often sees patterns before the conscious mind catches up. By paying attention to these symbolic clues, INFJs unlock solutions or warnings hidden deep within themselves. This is why INFJs often surprise people with their seemingly out-of-nowhere insights. While others are focused only on logic or surface facts, INFJs are drawing from an extra layer of awareness, one that merges reason with the hidden language of symbols. It's not about believing in magic, it's about recognizing that the mind speaks in more than words. And INFJs are among the rare few who can listen to that deeper conversation and turn it into clarity. And third on the list, they're masters of mental chess. Conversations with an INFJ can feel strangely different, almost like a game you didn't know you were playing. That's because INFJs don't just respond in the moment. They think several steps ahead, the same way a chess master studies the board before making a move. While most people are busy reacting to the last thing said, the INFJ is already anticipating what comes next. When they ask you a question, it's rarely random. Chances are they've already thought through the possible answers you might give, and more importantly, what each answer reveals about your mindset. If you respond quickly, they measure your confidence. If you hesitate, They wonder what you're hiding. Even silence becomes a piece of data. This is what makes conversations with INFJs feel so unnervingly precise. They're not just listening to words, they're analyzing the strategy behind them. This ability to play mental chess comes from two layers of intelligence working together. On one side, INFJs use intuition to read emotional energy and unspoken cues. On the other side, they apply logic to predict likely outcomes. The combination makes them unusually good at understanding motives and anticipating behavior long before anyone else notices the pattern. The result is that INFJs often arrive at conclusions that seem almost prophetic. People sometimes mistake this for mind reading, but it isn't magic. It's the quiet intelligence of someone who has been mapping the board, studying the moves, and calculating the endgame while everyone else was distracted by the surface of the conversation. This is why INFJs often leave such a strong impression. Long after a conversation ends, you might find yourself thinking, how did they know that about me? The truth is, they didn't just hear your words. They read the entire game you were playing, and in most cases they were already 3 moves ahead. Fourthly, they outsmart systems, not just people. Most people think of intelligence as being about outsmarting individuals, but INFJs take it to another level. Their uncommon intelligence shows up in how they outsmart entire systems. Where others see rules and routines as fixed, INFJs see them as patterns to be analyzed and flaws to be exposed. They don't just look at how a person behaves, they study how organizations, cultures, and even governments quietly operate beneath the surface. This is why INFJs often feel like outsiders in structured environments. In a workplace, they notice the inefficiencies everyone else tolerates. In a classroom, they question why the system is built the way it is, instead of simply memorizing the answers. Even in social groups, they can sense when the unspoken hierarchy doesn't match reality. They spot hypocrisies, loopholes, and weak points that others are either blind to or too afraid to acknowledge. And here's where it gets interesting. INFJs don't always challenge systems directly, at least not at first. Instead, they adapt, maneuver, and sometimes exploit those hidden flaws to protect themselves or to help others. Their goal isn't to break the system for the sake of rebellion. Their goal is to expose the truth and find a smarter way through. It's less about playing within the rules and more about understanding who wrote the rules in the first place and why. This kind of systemic intelligence makes INFJs both respected and resented. Respected because they can see what others cannot. Resented because once they reveal the cracks, nobody can unsee them. Their ability to dissect systems is what gives them an almost prophetic edge. Not just understanding people in the moment, but predicting when the structures around those people are destined to fail. That's why INFJs don't just survive within systems. More often than not, they quietly outsmart them. Fifthly, they read timing, not just words. Most people focus only on the words being spoken, but INFJs listen to something far subtler: the timing. To an INFJ, when something is said often matters more than what is said. A hesitation before answering, a laugh dropped at the wrong moment, or a denial that comes too quickly can reveal more truth than a carefully chosen sentence ever could. This is where INFJ intelligence becomes almost unnerving. They pick up on the rhythm of speech, the pacing and the pauses that others ignore. If someone takes too long to answer a simple question, the INFJ wonders why. If someone changes the subject just a little too quickly, the INFJ notices the escape. Even the silence between words becomes information. It's like reading sheet music instead of just hearing the melody. Where most people hear the surface tune, INFJs are studying the timing, the rests, and the subtle offbeat moments that change the entire meaning of the piece. This gives them a kind of sixth sense about honesty, hidden feelings, and the real weight behind a conversation. The fascinating part is that the person speaking usually has no idea they're revealing anything at all. They believe their words are carefully controlled, but their timing exposes the cracks. And that's exactly where an INFJ looks. This is why people sometimes walk away from conversations with an INFJ feeling like they've been understood on a level they didn't even intend to share. Reading timing is more than listening. It's decoding. And INFJs do it so naturally that most people don't even realize how much they've revealed until it's too late. Sixthly, they spot the odd one out instantly. Group settings can be confusing for most people. There are voices competing for attention, different personalities blending together, and hidden dynamics shaping the atmosphere. But INFJs cut through that noise almost immediately. They can walk into a group and instantly spot who doesn't belong, who's faking it, or who secretly holds the real influence. This isn't about being judgmental. It's about reading energy. An INFJ notices when someone's words don't match their body language, when their presence feels disconnected from the group's flow, or when their motives quietly clash with what everyone else is doing. They can tell who is genuinely engaged and who is wearing a mask. Sometimes the odd one out is the loudest person in the room, the one who talks big but contributes little. Other times, it's the quiet observer who says almost nothing but subtly directs the group's decisions. The INFJ sees through these surface roles. They identify who is truly aligned and who is simply performing. What makes this skill so powerful is that it's almost invisible. The group continues on, unaware of these undercurrents, while the INFJ quietly understands the real structure. This is why INFJs can navigate social groups so strategically. They know who can be trusted, who to watch carefully, and who is likely to disrupt everything later. Spotting the odd one out isn't about exclusion, it's about clarity. While others get caught up in appearances, INFJs focus on authenticity. And because of that, they see truths about group dynamics that most people never even consider. Seventhly, they spot the invisible rules. Every environment runs on rules that nobody writes down. In workplaces, families, classrooms, even friend groups, there are unspoken agreements about who really has influence, which topics are off limits, and how far someone can go before they're quietly excluded. Most people follow these hidden rules without ever realizing they exist. But INFJs, they spot them almost immediately. Walk an INFJ into a new room, and within minutes they've mapped the social landscape. They notice who interrupts without consequence, who softens their voice to avoid conflict, and who everyone secretly looks at before making a decision. While others are distracted by what's happening on the surface, INFJs are tuning into the subtle signals that reveal the true hierarchy. It's like watching the source code of human interaction run in real time. This awareness gives INFJs an edge, because once you know the invisible rules, you don't have to play blindly like everyone else. You can choose when to bend them, when to follow them, and when to quietly subvert them. And INFJs are masters at this. They rarely draw attention to themselves, but they use their knowledge to move strategically, to avoid unnecessary conflict, and sometimes to shift outcomes without anyone realizing it. The fascinating part is that INFJs don't just notice these hidden rules. They also see how fragile they are. They understand that unspoken contracts can collapse the moment one person refuses to play along. And because of that, they're often less intimidated by authority, less bound by tradition, and more willing to think independently than most people around them. Spotting invisible rules isn't just perception. It's a subtle form of intelligence that allows INFJs to navigate complex dynamics, like they're reading from a script everyone else didn't even know existed. And eighthly, they hide their sharpest opinions. INFJs are known for their insights, but here's the twist. Their most powerful opinions are usually the ones they don't say out loud. On the surface, they may appear agreeable, nodding along or offering gentle input. But beneath that calm exterior, their mind is running sharp surgical analysis that could completely shift the conversation if they chose to reveal it. This isn't because they lack confidence, it's strategy. INFJs understand that not everyone can handle the weight of their real thoughts. Their insights often cut deep, exposing uncomfortable truths or hidden contradictions. Dropping those opinions in the wrong setting could create conflict, defensiveness, or even backlash. So instead, they wait. They ration what they reveal, carefully choosing when and with whom to share the full picture. The irony is that people sometimes mistake this restraint for passivity. But in reality, it's one of the clearest signs of their uncommon intelligence. Knowing when to hold back requires as much wisdom as knowing what to say. INFJs measure the emotional readiness of the people around them, testing whether their sharper thoughts will spark growth or simply resistance. And when they finally do speak their mind, the impact is unforgettable. Their words carry weight because they aren't scattered casually. They're delivered like precision strikes. One well-placed comment can change the entire direction of a conversation, and often, people remember it long after. INFJs don't hide their sharpest opinions because they're afraid. They hide them because they know the value of timing, context, and restraint. And that's a form of intelligence that feels both unsettling and powerful to those who experience it. Ninthly, they unravel the story beneath the story. Every story people tell has two layers, the one on the surface and the one hiding underneath. Most people only hear the surface, the complaint about work, the humble brag, the casual joke. But INFJs are wired to dig deeper. They listen for the cracks in the story, the emotional fingerprints that reveal what's really going on. When someone vents about their boss, an INFJ doesn't just hear frustration. They wonder if the real issue is fear of being undervalued. When someone constantly jokes about being unlucky in love, the INFJ sees through the humor and senses the loneliness behind it. Even arrogance doesn't fool them. They recognize it as insecurity dressed up in louder clothing. This ability isn't about suspicion, it's about pattern recognition. INFJs know that words are rarely the full truth. People reveal themselves in the emotions beneath their stories, in the parts they skip over, and in the contradictions they don't notice. The INFJ listens with one ear to what's being said, and the other ear to what's missing. The result is a kind of emotional X-ray vision. While others get caught up in the surface details, the INFJ is already connecting the hidden themes. And when they finally reflect back what they've discovered, it can feel unsettlingly accurate. Like they've pulled the truth straight out of someone's chest. This is what makes INFJs such powerful confidants, but also intimidating observers. They don't just hear your story, they unravel the story beneath it. And once they see it, they can't unsee it. Last but not least, they notice what others ignore. What most people dismiss as background noise, INFJs treat as valuable data. A half smile, a sudden shift in tone, the choice of a single unusual word. These small details might slip past everyone else, but to an INFJ, they're puzzle pieces, waiting to be connected. This is what makes INFJ intelligence so different. While others are chasing the obvious, they're collecting the overlooked. The way someone glances away during a question, the subtle tension in a handshake, the moment two people exchange a look across the room when nobody else notices. To the INFJ, these details aren't meaningless. They're clues that reveal the bigger picture. What's fascinating is that INFJs don't always act on this knowledge right away. They store it, quietly, letting those small details pile up until suddenly the full pattern emerges. By then, they've often formed an insight that feels shocking in its accuracy. To others it looks like intuition or even luck, but in reality, it's the result of noticing what everyone else ignored. This subtle awareness gives INFJs a unique kind of power. They can see dynamics forming before they fully unfold, and they can sense when something isn't adding up long before anyone else catches on. It's why conversations with an INFJ can feel like they see right through you, because in a way, they do. Noticing what others ignore isn't about being hypervigilant. It's about valuing the details that most people filter out. And that's what makes INFJ intelligence so uncommon. It lives in the quiet spaces between the obvious. So those are 10 subtle INFJ signs of uncommon intelligence. Not flashy, not loud, but precise, strategic, and often unsettling in how accurate they are. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these signs resonated the most? And do you think INFJs hide their intelligence on purpose? Or do they simply operate on a level most people don't notice? Drop your thoughts below. I'm excited to read the debates this one sparks. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to subscribe, because in the next video, we'll dive into the dark side of INFJ intelligence and why it can sometimes backfire.